So Namaskaram again, once again, Prabhujis and Matajis, and welcome to our Satsang number 10. And today's topic is on the three bodies doctrine, also known as Sarira, Traya. And this is associated to a large extent with our knowledge of the koshas. And the knowledge of the koshas came to us from the Taittiriya Upanishad. So that this will be supplementing that knowledge. And also, this knowledge of the Sarira Traya, or the three bodies doctrine, is very, very important because it also enables us to dive deeper into experiencing the spiritual knowledge which we receive, and when we put it into practice. All this will be made clearer to you as we go through the slides which are going to follow. So an overview of what we're going to do, a review of what we did in the last session, where we had a look at the Katha Upanishad and how it brings our understanding into perspective of the chariot, the passenger, the driver, the reins for the horses, the actual horses, and the road traveled by the chariot. And then a quick review of the Pancha Koshas, because it is very much related to the knowledge of the Sarira Traya, or the three bodies doctrine. And today's main topic, the three bodies doctrine. And of course, we always correlate this knowledge. We bring back our knowledge of Vedanta to the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. Introduction to the Lingashtakam Strotam. I was looking at the syllabus for today, and it'll be a bit much to introduce that today. So we will do the Lingashtakam Strotam in our next satsang. So quick review. Anyone can please unmute and answer the question. With reference to the knowledge which was shared with us from the Katha Upanishad, what do the horses represent?
That is sight, taste,
Yes.
Smell,
Yes.
and hearing.
Yes. You are giving the complicated answer, Prabhuji. Actually, it's a one-word answer. Okay, what you have been describing are the senses, and you were breaking down the senses. So well done. Well done. So what do the horses represent? They represent the five senses that we have. Okay, so well done. Next one. What do the reins represent? The ropes that are used to hold the horses, the reins, what do they represent?
Controlling mind.
Very good, Prabhu. Very good, PJ Prabhu. The mind must control the senses. And what does the road represent? A lot of people omit understanding this, but it is important. What does the road on which this chariot is traveling represent? Seema Prabhu, would you say? Sorry,
lifetime, sir?
Sorry, go ahead, PJ Prabhu. Seema Mataji, would you like to try?
Yes, sir, the journey of life.
Very good. The journey of our life is represented by the road. Very good. Well done. And what does the chariot represent?
That's the body, sir.
Yes, very good, Prabhu. Our material bodies, and with time, the chariot will need to be taken care of because it gets damaged in many ways. So the chariots are representing our bodies, and when the chariot becomes really old and very rusty, what happens? We have to order a new chariot because this chariot is now too old to maintain. Okay, just like our material bodies. What does Arjuna represent? In a way, he's also representing us. So what do we represent? Is it man? Is it the mind? Is it the intellect? Is it the ego? Is it the chitta, the subconscious? What is it?
Is it the soul, sir?
Beg your pardon?
Soul, our soul.
Our soul. Yes, if we are realized, then it will represent our soul. But in this context, it is representing our intelligence. Okay. And what does Lord Krishna represent?
Krishna would be the supreme soul, or the supreme power.
Very good. The supreme power or the Paramatma. So we say that Arjun is the Atma, then Krishna is the Paramatma. Okay. So here we go. The chariot is the body. Here the passenger is the Atman, or can we also be representing the intellect. Okay. The charioteer is the intellect, and what we are doing is the Lord Krishna can represent the Paramatma, the super soul. He can also be represented by the intellect, because what the mind wants to do, we hand it over to the intellect to make the decisions or to get all the data in place so that a proper decision can be made. So Krishna here represents the witness also, because he witnesses everything that we do and everything that we think. He's a witness to all of that. He's also known as a charioteer. And then the passenger here, Arjun, why is he a passenger? Because although he is doing his karma yoga, he's doing his prescribed duties of being a warrior, he's surrendering all the fruits of his labor, all of his actions, he's surrendering it onto the Lord. So he, in this sense, becomes a sakshi, a witness to his own actions, because he knows that all these actions are actually dedicated to the Lord. So here, in this example of the battle of Kurukshetra, after he got the knowledge that Bhagavan Krishna gave to him in the Bhagavad Gita, he then fought the battle as Krishna's instrument. He was not fighting the battle for himself anymore. He was fighting for God. He was doing his work for God. Okay? So this was a conversation between the Bhagavad Gita, as we know, is a conversation between Arjun, but basically us and the Supreme Lord. So a quick review of the Pancha Koshas as well. The source document is the Taittiriya Upanishad. The Taittiriya Upanishad exists as 3 chapters in the Yagur Veda. And there we learned that the external covering is known as the Annamaya Kosha. It is also known as the food sheath. Okay, but basically the Annamaya Kosha consists of our gross body. Pranamaya Kosha are also referred to as the vital airs or the energy sheath. So from the subsistence that we get in terms of food, the air that we breathe, we then get the requirements that our material body needs. Now this needs to be converted into energy that can be used, because if it is not converted into energy, then it's of no use. For example, if the sun is shining very brightly on plants and there is no chlorophyll in the plants, then photosynthesis cannot take place. So it is the existence of the chlorophyll in the leaves of the plant that permits the sunlight now to, so the sun's energy to be assimilated by the plant. So similarly, we need this pranamaya kosha to be able to assimilate the intake of our foods and the air that we breathe. Okay. The manomaya kosha comes next, which is the mind sheath. Now, if we consume well, we breathe well, and we eat well, then the energy that we will get good energy and good vital airs, then our mind will work well. Okay, that's the Manomaya Kosha. Then with that, it then leads us to the intellect sheath. Because our mind is working well, then our intellect will work even better. And finally, if all this is working very well, we are in a position to start experiencing Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss sheath. And once we associate more and more with the bliss sheath, we are then relating more and more with our Atman. So we have slowly raised our level of realization from Annamaya Kosha, slowly gravitating towards Anandamaya Kosha. So now with that koshas, we look at the Traya Sharira. The Taittiriya Upanishad describes these 5 koshas. It is often correlated with the 3 bodies which cover the Atman. The external body of the Traya Sharira is known as the Sthula Sharira, the gross body. It is correlated with the Annamaya Kosha. Why is it called the gross body? Because it is composed of the 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space, also known as the Panchabhutas. They also comprise of Janendriyas, the importers, the knowledge acquiring senses to bring into our system. That's why we call them the importers. And our Karmendriyas, our exporters, our working senses, which we did in our earlier satsangs. So all this put together comprises our Sthula Sharira, or gross body. And if you remember that famous triangle which we kept looking at for many, many satsangs, so the base of that triangle, the Panchabhutas, air, fire, water, earth, space, and then our Karmendriyas, our Janendriyas. Karmendriyas are our hands, feet, speech, genital, and anus. And then the importers, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So all this total comprises the gross body, also known as the Sthula Sharira. A bit more on the Sthula Sharira. The Sthula Sharira has a particular volume. It occupies. So the breathing and respiratory systems that we have functions due to air. And the warmth in the body is due to the fire of friction. And the body is made up of water and the minerals, the earth. So we have the earth, the water, the fire, air, everything here. And the body also occupying space. So each physical body is acquired as a result of past deeds. So how tall we are, what complexion we have, what type of hair we have, etc., etc. So this physical body, which we all have, is acquired as a result of past deeds. It is for experiencing pain and pleasure and other pairs of opposites. Other pairs of opposites basically related to likes and dislikes. So each physical body that we have, we cannot escape from this because they are material bodies, and material bodies are subject to 6 modifications. These 6 modifications are known as the Shad Vikaras. And what are the Shad Vikaras? They are birth. We all take birth, and then we grow. And then as we grow, we obtain certain desires. And after we obtain them, we want to enjoy them. So there's obtaining desires, then enjoying desires. Then we start getting older. There are more cells which die in our body than are generated, which when we pass normally, what according to what the doctors say and the biologists say, it is past the age of 35 where our bodies have got more cells which are being destroyed than being generated. So that's the process of decay sets in, and there's nothing much that we can do about it. And then finally, death. So these are the Shad Vikaras, which affect all material physical bodies. So now that's the Sthula Sharira. Now we look at the Shukshma Sharira, which is the subtle body. It is composed of three of the koshas. It is composed of the pranamaya kosha, which is the vital breath and energies that we derive, the manomaya kosha, the mind, and the vijnanamaya kosha, which is the intellect. So in that triangle, again, this is the mid portion of the triangle. If you have the manas, the mind, you have your intellect, your buddhi, and you have your ahamkar, your ego. Okay, so that's your subtle body. So the subtle body is not perceptible by our senses or sensory organs. So you cannot use your eyes to see vital breath or energy. You cannot use your ears to hear the mind. You cannot use your fingers to feel the intellect. These are subtle. This is beyond the capabilities of the gross body to detect or to experience. The gross body is basically out of its league. It cannot do that. So it is not perceptible by our senses or sensory organs. Its existence can be inferred and experienced in our day-to-day life. So it includes our mind, intelligence, and ego. Experience develops thoughts. So when we experience a certain situation, it develops thoughts within us. And these thoughts then affect the development of our ego. So there is a question here, quick one on intelligence. Is our intelligence clouded or is it always accurate? Anyone? Rakita Maharaji, would you like to try? Is our intelligence clouded or is it always accurate?
I think it's clouded.
Yes. And why do you think it's clouded?
Because whatever happens, we first we quickly think about, what happened in the past, the other person had reacted that way. So we just go on with the answer.
Yes. But you're on the right track, and that's absolutely the correct track. Basically, we are basing our intelligence on our experience, and our experience may not be very accurate because it may not be reflective of the actual situation. For example, the Western world, for example, until around the 16th century, using as much intelligence as they had, actually very strongly believed that the earth was flat. They would never accept, even the church would say that if anybody says that the world is not flat, that person, the church would take action against such a person. So they were using their intelligence, but their intelligence was clouded. It was inaccurate. So we have to remember that whatever intelligence we get in this material world may be limiting us in our actual search for what we are looking for. Okay. So there was a question in a previous class. What are the physiological systems? Well, the physiological systems are basically the bridge between our gross body and our body. The physiological systems are the cerebrovascular system, which means that's how our heart works with all the veins and arteries, okay? Then we have a digestive system. We also have an endocrine system, an immune system, a muscular system, a nervous system. So all these systems within our gross body are known as physiological organ systems, okay? So anyway, what we have done so far is the gross body and the subtle body, the Shukshma Sharira. So the Antaka, it is much more powerful than the physical body, and the Shukshma Sharira influences our Sthula Sharira into carrying out certain actions. So whatever we think, good or bad, whatever decisions we make, whatever contemplation we do, is all using the subtle body, because we are no more in the gross platform. We are using our mind and intellect and our ego, who we are, to make certain decisions and carry out certain actions. The Shukshma, the subtle body, is also known as the Linga Sharira. Sometimes in certain doctrines that you word or the phrase Linga Sharira, it means exactly the same thing, exactly the same thing. It surrounds the Sthula Sharira as an aura of energy. That is the Shukshma Sharira. So we use our Janendriyas and Karmendriyas, the importers and exporters, for perception and engagement through and with the gross body. But always remember this, it is the thoughts that precede our words, and the words precede our action. Sometimes we might not say anything loudly, but we are actually saying something within ourselves. And these things that we say to ourselves, even if they are not vocalized, originate in thoughts. So this is why the Shukshma Sharira is very important. So what sort of thoughts we have are going to generate either vocalized words or words which we say to ourselves, and can result in actions. Okay? And why is the Shukshma Sharira more powerful than the physical body? A very simple example is when you look at world-class athletes or world-class sportsmen. Sometimes these world-class sportsmen, when they take part in a particular game, they may be physically stronger, they may have more stamina to do a particular activity, but when they face an opponent, they may get mentally weak. And although on paper they may be the better of the two individuals who are taking part in this competition, because their mind, their mental strength is lacking, they can actually lose that particular sport. Okay, so that is why they say physical strength has its limitations. You need the basic physical strengths and abilities, but what is even more powerful is the mental strength. Okay, similar with students. Some students may be very good when they are not under pressure. So which means if they are in a classroom environment, they may be able to give all the answers which are required, or provide all the answers which are required for particular questions. But when they are put in the pressure cooker of an examination where there is a time constraint, and how you perform in that particular exam or test is so important, because it determines your grade and whether you're going to get a particular job or not. Under pressure, they actually break down. So the Shukshma Sharira must never be underestimated. The Shukshma Sharira or Linga Sharira is also known as the astral body. When we leave our bodies, when our soul leaves the body, that person's Sthula Sharira, the gross body, is being burnt or discarded, but the soul cannot quit the gross body without a vehicle of some kind. What does it do? The vehicle of the soul is the Shukshma or Linga Sharira, in which the deceased person remains hovering near the crematorium or the grave if that person is being buried. It then undergoes a process of re-establishment either in liberation, because that person was carrying out a very dharmic life and was a self-realized individual. So that person doesn't need to be re-established in the material universe anymore. He gets liberated, and he or she didn't quite make the grade. That person will be reformatted into a new vehicle, a new Sthula Sharira. But the Shukshma Sharira travels, the astral body travels with that soul. Okay, so the Sthula and Shukshma Sharira interaction This is a quotation given by Yogi Swami Sivananda Saraswati. He says, the body follows the mind. Every change in thought makes a vibration in our mental body. So every thought that we have is creating a vibration in our mental body. Okay. This vibration is transmitted to the Sthula Sharira. This causes activity in the brain and nerve cells and then causes electrical and chemical changes in the body. This is a complicated way of saying the thoughts precede the words precede the action. Okay, but basically this is what Swami Sivananda is saying. And Swami Vivekananda says it in a slightly different way. He says the astral body is what we call the Linga Sharira. When this gross body, the Shula Sharira, dies, how can it come to take another body? The force, energy, cannot remain without matter. It is the mind that makes the body. Remember this and never forget it. It is how our mind works, our antakarana, and also you'll be doing very shortly, the causal body that creates our next body. So force, we all studied this in school, force equals to mass times acceleration. So force equals to mass, which is matter or potential energy, and times acceleration, which is the motion of the mind, which is the kinetic energy. So when the gross body dies, that energy remains. And that energy now will be seeking a new vehicle. Okay? And it'll keep on going. The potential energy is there, and the potential energy is looking for a means to get kinetic energy. Okay, so force equals to mass and acceleration, it keeps on going on and on. So now we will come to the causal body. We had the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, the Sthula Sharira, the gross body, now the causal body. So the Karana Sharira is what it's called. It houses the Chitta, our subconscious mind, the storehouse of our vasanas, all our desires, which we have stored for millions and millions of births, which are the past impressions and why we tend to do certain things in certain ways. They are our inborn tendencies. It is the cause. The Karana Sharira is the cause of both the Sthula and the Sukshma Shariras. It is ignorant of one's own real nature, which is to be free from the duality or division. The Karana Sharira, the causal body, in a very simple way, is the cause of why we are still in this material universe. It is the cause, and that cause is the unpurified Chitta, the subconsciousness, which has still material accumulations of disparity, duality, or division. It originates with ignorance, avidya, of the real identity of the Atman. So rather than relating to ourselves as individual souls, we all think that we are here to exploit material nature, to get ahead of everybody else at the expense of other people. So as long as we have this outward-looking tendencies, we are living in avidya, or ignorance. And instead of Atman consciousness, it gives birth to the notion of Jiva. Okay? The Jiva is the root cause of repeated births and deaths. Swami Sivananda, the founder of Divine Life Society, he describes the Karana Sharira very beautifully. He calls it the beginningless ignorance that is indescribable. It is impossible to describe what this level of ignorance that we have in our causal body, our Karana Sharira, that keeps us taking another birth and another birth and another birth and living in samsara. It is the storehouse of our base instincts such as lust, anger, greed, infatuation. Okay? So the causal body is the cause. Remember what we did in Dharma in Satsang number 2, Purva Janma Karma Kama Bija. So the previous birth karma desire seeds are filtering down to our Shukshma Sharira and down towards our Stula Sharira, all coming like from an apex, from the Chitta, which is where the causal body is. Okay, the Chitta is sitting right at the top of the triangle, which you can see. So everything flows. The subconscious mind, which is polluted with material desires, it is flowing with the reservoirs of vasanas and making us behave in certain ways, to apply our intellect in different ways, and to have a particular type of ego. And finally, it then results in our bodies doing certain actions. So our previous karmas become our seeds of desires for certain persons or objects. So the Karana Sharira is the Chitta, the memory influenced by vasanas, the past impressions or inborn tendencies. If you have forgotten some of this terminology, strongly recommend that you look at Satsang number 2, 3, and 4. That's where we went through in depth in the description of vasanas, samskaras, and a few other terminologies which are coming in very useful now. So from this Karana Sharira, the Chitta, so it is the impressions and tendencies that leads to thoughts. Thoughts finally leads to words, and words to actions. So T, thoughts leading to W, words leading to A, action. So T, W, A. That's the sequence. It is the cause of all our worldly attachments, bandhana. Very important to realize this. Why are we attached to this material world? All because of Karana Sharira, the beginningless ignorance, which is indescribable. Therefore, to free ourselves from worldly misery and the bondage of repeated births and deaths, we should first understand the root cause of all this. We must know the causal body. And then, once we know about the causal body, we must begin to separate ourselves from it. Become the Shakti. Stop identifying with the Chitta. When we stop identifying with the Chitta, what we are doing is we are converting the Chitta, the subconscious polluted mind, okay, or polluted consciousness, to Chitta Suddhi. We are purifying the Chitta. So perform the roles. We all have prescribed duties. In this battle of Kurukshetra, Arjun had a particular role to play. So in our current lives, we all have roles to play. To perform those roles, but don't become the role. We have roles to perform, and the roles are not forever. Think about the things that you used to do before, but you don't do anymore. You, at that particular time, at that stage of your life, you had to perform that role. But now, because time has moved on, you don't perform that role anymore because it is meaningless. You're doing something else now. So you don't become the role, you perform the roles. So quick recap, manas in the time and the 10 senses. Remember, the Janendriyas, through using the karmendriyas are the top part here, active expressions. Okay, it then brings our acquisition of our worldly experiences through the Janendriyas, and the first thing that it hits in the Antakarana is the mind. And the mind must just be a relay station, relaying the information to buddhi. And we must also be aware that the buddhi may be clouded. The buddhi that we get from all these experiences may be inaccurate. So we shouldn't be so proud that we have such intelligence, because that intelligence could be wrong. Now, with whatever intelligence we have, we are now going to be embedding it into our subconscious mind, the chitta. And this is going to further develop our ego of who we think we are. Okay, the ahamkar. So it works in a continuous cycle. One reinforcing another, reinforcing another. We must become the smiley face in the middle of this cycle. The smiley face is the Shakti. Yes, I am using my manas, I'm using my buddhi, I'm using my chitta, I am using my ahamkar, but I am not affected. I'm just performing the role. I am not the role. So when we do that, this notion of jiva, real identity of Atman being covered by the notion of jiva, slowly leaves us. We then relate more and more to the Atman rather than the jiva. When we do that, we are slowly overcoming maya, illusion. Then we relate more and more with our inherent pure nature. What is our pure nature? Para Prakriti. Right now in this material universe, we are affected by Jiva Prakriti, consciousness on a material plane. So now we will look at the Bhagavad Gita, a few verses here. So if you all can unmute and you can say it verse by verse after me, okay? The first one, I'll just say first two sentences because it's Sanjaya Uvacha. Sanjaya Uvacha. Tam tata kripaya vistam. Together.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Tata
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Tam
Tam tata kripaya vistam.
Ashru
Ashru
lekshatam. Ashru
Leshitam
visidantam idam vakyam.
Vishidantam vakyam.
Vakyam
Uvacha madhusudanaha.
Uvacha Madhusudana.
Prabhuji, could you please read the English translation?
Nisha?
Yes, please.
Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion and very sorrowful, his eyes brimming with tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words.
Thank you, Prabhu. There is few words here. Avishtam. Avishtam here means overwhelmed. And then Ashru Purna Kulekshanam. Ashru Purna Kulekshanam basically means full of tears, distress. And Ikshanam, the eyes. So basically the eyes were full of tears, showing distress. Then the next word, Visidantam. Okay? And Visidantam means grief. These are the few words we'll be looking at. So here, Sri Krishna Bhagavan has observed all three of Arjuna's shariras. In one verse, he's observed all three. Ashru Purna, full of tears. Akula, disturbed. Ikshanam, the eyes. It means that one whose disturbed eyes are filled with tears. These words describes Arjuna's physical body, or the indications through his Sthula Sharira. Okay, so Ashru Purna Akula Ikshanam, describing his eyes filled with tears, describing his Sthula Sharira. Then we look at Visidantam. It means depressed. This words describes his subtle body. Okay, he's depressed. Avishtam means he's overwhelmed. This depicts his causal body. So being overwhelmed causes him to be depressed, and because he is depressed, his eyes are full of tears. So it starts with the causal body leading to the subtle body's reaction, and the subtle body's reaction resulting in how the gross body behaves. And it starts him feeling overwhelmed. So in addressing Arjuna's state, Krishna is being the physician, a psychiatrist, and is also playing a further role of being a spiritual doctor. Arjuna is sick. He is spiritually sick. Crying is a physical symptom of this disease, but it is not the cause. It is the end result. But no one cries without reason. Arjuna is crying due to the remorse in his mind. And this remorse is a subtle symptom of this disease that he has. He doesn't want to fight because he is thinking of all the bad things that are going to happen if he fights. That is why his eyes are full of tears. It's not because there's something has gone into his eyes that is causing it. No, there is depression. He's going through depression. That is why his feeling of remorse is causing him to feel this way. Krishna has pinpointed the reason for this remorse too. It is being overwhelmed with pity. He's feeling pitiful for his gurus. He's feeling pitiful for all the people who are going to lose their lives on the battlefield. He is overwhelmed with pity. That is the root cause of his disease, not anything else. So the root cause of his disease, it is the sense of being overwhelmed. So now being overwhelmed with all this, he's expressing. It is all being expressed as remorse and as tearful eyes. Okay? So now we'll do the next verse. We'll say it together. Matra sparshastu kaunteya.
Matra
Shishtoshna sukha dukkha daha.
Shishtoshna
Sukha
Agama payino nityas.
Agama Piyona Nityas
Tanstitikshashva bharata.
Sanstitishita Bharata.
May I please ask Seema Mataji, could you please read the English translation?
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O descendant of Bharata, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So here, what Krishna is telling us is, whatever we like or whatever we don't really care for, they come and they go. With time, they will come. We don't really like bitter winter. Neither do we really like very hot summers. But the very hot summers don't last forever. And neither do the bitter winters. So all this come and go. So this advice Lord Krishna is giving to Arjun and is giving to all of us. He's telling us that all these experiences that we have is from sense perception. He's telling us to learn to tolerate them, learn to tolerate all the ups and downs that we go through our lives because they will not last. 3 years ago, when we first had the first COVID cases and the lockdown started, we all went through a terrible misery. But COVID-19 didn't last forever. Now most of the world is out of it. And fortunately, even when people do get COVID nowadays, almost all of them recover. So we must learn to tolerate the difficulties that we go through and try not to be disturbed because they do not last forever. So handling raga dveshas or the likes and dislikes, for example, we might like certain types of foods. Even now, if it's mango season, you might like the Alfonsos, but you might not like the other mangoes which are not Alfonsos. So you have to basically try to overcome that. We like certain clothings and then we dislike others. We like certain persons, we dislike others. We like certain places, we dislike others. Very famous question. What are the famous for your favorite cities that you have visited? Why must you have favorite cities? All cities, there are people living there. If the city that you have visited doesn't really appeal to you, there's still millions of people living there. So why must we have certain cities that we like and dislike others? We like certain sounds and we dislike others. Some people like to hear popular music and some people only like to listen to the oldies. So we have to tolerate it. Some people like certain colors, dislike others. We like, all of us like to be praised. All of us like to be respected and honored. And we dislike it when people censure us, when people correct us, when people disregard us or dishonor us. So we all undergo this. We may like a particular religion. Yes, we may like it, but do we dislike others? If we do, we are in trouble. So we have to learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. And further examples, we like comforts, pleasures, dislikes, and we dislike discomforts and pain. But what Bhagavan is telling us is, there is no peace of mind, as the mind is ever restless and agitated because we go from likes and dislikes, dislikes and likes, raga, dvesha. So the waves of raga, dvesha, which is attachments and aversions or likes and dislikes, they are ever disturbing the mind. One wave comes after another. So one who has destroyed raga, dvesha will forever be happy, peaceful, joyful, strong, and healthy, because basically the waves that come and hit them, the amplitude of the waves become smaller and smaller. So the waves become, they basically you get a very calm ocean rather than having a very disturbed ocean. So in our final verse for today, I believe it is the final verse, 1854, Bhagavan tells us, Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma. Together?
Brahma
Prasannatma.
Na sochati na kangshati.
Na
Sochati na akshati.
Samaha sarveshu bhuteshu.
Samaha
Sarveshu bhuteshu.
Mad bhaktim labhate param.
Mad
Please ask Bhima Prabhuji, could you please read the English translation?
One situated in the transcendental Brahman realization becomes mentally serene, neither grieving nor desiring, being equally disposed toward all living beings. Such a person attains supreme devotion unto me.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So the words we are focusing here are Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma, which means being one with the Absolute, being fully joyful. Okay? So one who becomes Brahma Bhutaha attains happiness and never grieves and never has any worldly expectations. This means that to become free from the influences of Maya or illusion, anyone who wants to be free from the pains of despair, which are referred to as sochati, who wants to experience happiness must become Brahma Bhutaha. Such a person is immediately entitled to the boon of being Prasannatma. Atma here, Prasann means joyful, fully joyful. So Prasannatma, fully joyful. So all these efforts described in chapter 18, verse 54, allow us to recognize the effects of chitta, storing of all our vasanas. Along with Arjuna, we should also take this sip of this remedy. The remedy is being given to us in 1854 of slowly becoming Brahma Bhutaha. Of that, the first treatment is a dose of courage. We can achieve Brahma Bhutaha. we can. This birth, with the correct practice, with the correct knowledge, we can achieve Brahma Bhutaha. Okay? And again, Brahma Bhutaha here is being one with the Absolute. Okay? Brahma Bhutaha, being one with the Absolute, which means we can reunite with the Supreme Lord. We can. We must have the courage that we can do it. So don't have the defeatist attitude that, look, I've been coming again and again and again, so many births, I never made it. What makes, why am I so sure that I'm going to make it this time? No, have the courage. Have the courage that this can be your last appearance in this material universe. Okay? So quick refresh before we call it night for today's session. What are the Traya Sharira? Kita Maraji, would you like to try?
Sir, is it what's written right there? Hula Sharira, Shukshma Sharira, and Karna Sharira.
Absolutely. I made it so easy. Okay. So these are the three Shariras. What can the Stula Sharira be likened to or in relation to the Koshas?
Annamaya Kosha.
Very good. Very good. What can the Shukshma Sharira be likened to in relation to the Koshas?
Anandamaya Kosha.
No, I don't accept that answer. Sorry.
The Pranamaya, the Manomaya, and the Vijnanamaya.
Yes. The Shukshma Sharira comprises of, can be related to the Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha. And what feeds both the Stula and Shukshma Shariras?
What feeds both the Shukshma?
What is the source? What is the source of everything that we experience physically and also to our subtle bodies?
Anandamaya Kosha.
Yes. Okay. Or also known as the Karana Sharira. All right. So, and what is the reservoir of our own vasanas?
Chitta?
Chitta. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay. Love it. Linga Sharira is another name for which Sharira?
Um,
The Sukshma Sharira.
Shukshma Sharira. Absolutely. Okay. Linga Sharira is another name for that. And last question for this evening. What does Purva Janma Karma Kama Bija mean?
life, death in a cycle. Again and again. Again life, again death.
Good try, Mataji. Good try, but not quite there.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Seeds of our previous lives and karma.
Very good, Steve
Karma
Prabhu.
Bija.
Purva Janma is our previous birth. Okay, Purva Janma, previous birth. Karma is basically our actions. Kama, our desires.
Karma Bija.
Bijam, seeds. So the seeds of our
Karma.
desire from our
Pleasure
previous
seeds.
births being carried forward into this birth, and hopefully we of all these desires. Okay. So any questions with regards to the knowledge that we have all gone through on the Sharira Traya? Any questions, please?
Prabhuji, I have one question. You know,
Please.
when we started the prayers, we said Om. There are some people say AUM, some say OM.
Yes.
Is there a correct version? People say the way your sounds come out, it should be AUM.
Okay.
Is that right?
When A combines with U, it becomes O. So AUM is the way you write it. Okay, but when you pronounce it, it is Om. It is not Aum. That's why when we say, for example, we don't say Aum Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya. We say Om Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya. It is a common mistake because it is spelled that way. That is why to remove the confusion, but most cases in the English text just spelled as OM rather than AUM. When you use the Sanskrit writing of Om, basically it's a combination of A and the U becoming O. But pronunciation definitely Om, not Aum.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions, please? Okay. We'll say the Guru Vandana with a twist today, okay? Not with a twist, but to add value to how you say it. Om Gum Gurubhyo Namaha, you're praising the Sampradaya, the Guru and the Sampradaya. So that you know. When you say Om Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya from today onwards, visualize in your mind that you are seeing Lord Brahma sprouting from Mahavishnu's navel. Okay, because it's Padma Bhuvam. He's sprouting from Vishnu's navel, and Lord Brahma is sitting down in a sitting posture with his forehead. So visualize this in your mind. Start creating these mental images. Then when you say Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya, see Lord Shiva standing with his Trishul. Okay, standing there with his Trishul. So visualize this image. Then when you say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the image in your mind is Lord Krishna standing playing the flute. So start from today. So don't just be a parrot by saying Om Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. No, see all these images, create those images and embed them into your subconscious. Okay? Jai Shri Krishna. Let's say the Guru Vandana. Om Gum Gurubhyo Namaha.
Om Gum Gurubhyo Namaha.
Om Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Brahmanandaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Okay, Prabhuji, Mataji, thank you so much for joining today's class. Jai Shri Krishna and Om Namo
Thank you.
Jai Shri Krishna, sir.
Thank you, sir. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you, sir.